officially in the holiday season of the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. I guess really everybody is in the holiday season, but like maybe we'll change our profile photo to have some like Christmas lights in it.
I get a
and
little
call it a
Santa
day.
hat on.
Yeah, maybe that's what we have to do. We have to do like a Christmas episode where we're both wearing Santa hats, and
We
that's like,
should. No, we actually should 100% do that. I'm game.
well, considering we have a video version of the podcast now, I guess that's kind of what we have to do. You can always follow it on YouTube. But today we're going to be talking about some NBA injuries. A lot has been going on. I know specifically for our Sixers, we've been going through it, but other teams are going through it too. So we're going to bring those up as well. We also wanted to highlight the Celtics and the Kings. So we'll get towards that at the end of the episode, but we're gonna throw the soft pitch as our warm up because it is post Thanksgiving. And we weren't able to record beforehand because of traveling and a whole bunch of other stuff going on.
Oh, you could have thrown me under the bus, bro. I was gonna say, I'm like, you're very nice. You could have that's completely my fault. I said that to Andrew Morgan on Twitter. Like, I had a wedding last weekend, which is ironic because Justin's always at weddings. It was finally my turn to go for a wedding, and I was like, oh, we'll be able to sneak in an episode on Sunday. It's not really a big deal. It turns out that I had no time at all on Sunday, and I wasn't even hungover. Like, that's not even code for I was hungover. It's just like, no, I ran out of time.
Well, yeah, and
And
it's
travel
just
and stuff happens. So
right. It's one of those things where it's fine. I mean, it happens. This podcast, like we say all the time, is a passion play for us. So if we
I
can't
still
fit it
feel
in,
bad though because I'm thankful for you guys. That's what I always say is I'm thankful for everyone that listens to this podcast because we're in season 10. Like, this is still kind of crazy. I'm 32 years old now. That is kind of wild that I've been doing this for 10 years. But we still have a lot of fun with it. Like, to Justin's point, it's a passion project, but that's what it is. Like, we do this because it's fun. This is like, we both have jobs, we both have like lives outside of this and stuff, but sometimes at least.
well,
I guess that latter part is debatable, but no, we really are thankful for everybody again that watches it, that listens to the podcast. Like, this has been, the reason, half the incentive that we continue to do this is for you guys. Like, you guys, like, responding and being cool and talking hoops with us. Like, that's what drives this, at least in my eyes.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, I'd prefer to to talk with people about it than just kind of keep my thoughts to myself. And I like to think we're getting better each and every year. Maybe we're not, but I like to think we are.
It's definitely a different vibe from season 1, but that's just because, again, that's the if we want to be all sappy, like, that's the growing up part, right? Like, we were 23 years old when we started this podcast, essentially. There's been a lot going on. A lot of things have happened. I also want to double apologize right off rip because my voice is shot. I'm recovering from a cold too. So it's a double whammy of the fact that not only do you get a delayed episode, you get a delayed episode and my voice sounds horrible right now. I am very thankful that I don't have to be professionally on the radio right now. That is because, I got mad cough drops on deck, bro. I'm ready.
Well, and we're gonna do a little like behind the scenes producing. I don't know if it's your I don't know. It's either the cord is hitting your shirt and making a little bit of a noise.
Oh, is it? Okay, I'll move it.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know what that is, but I mean, it's not the biggest deal. I don't think it is. I guess I would say also thankful for. Yeah, I mean, without getting too sappy, I'm trying to make like a basketball thankful for you.
Oh, no, I've got a list of those things too.
Good.
I'm just no, yeah, we got real NBA stuff. I'm not gonna be all sap this episode.
I was like, we got to pivot. This is getting too sappy. I'm trying to think though. Like, I would say one thing I would be thankful for, and you're gonna laugh at me, is the betting sites in New Jersey when I was there.
You got to turn into a full degen right away. That's how we're going to take it. You got a single actual basketball thing for it. We got to.
Well, but hold on. This is relating to basketball because I was able to do a lot of player prop bets on Shake Milton and make a good amount of money.
You should have just said you were thankful for Shake Milton because I am. He's been carrying the boys recently. And again, we'll talk.
Right.
We'll talk some more Sixers in a little bit. I think is a theme though with actual basketball. I mean, I say this all the time on the podcast, but I'm really thankful that just basically every team has a reason to watch. Like, there's a greater amount of talent in the league, I feel like, than ever before. Even the quote unquote tanking teams have a player or two that are intriguing, that are going to do something every single night. And I think it is. It's a very watchable product right now. I mean, I get the complaints about the regular season being a little too long, but I think overall, in terms of star power, in terms of faces for the league, you've got a really great mix of young and old right now. So I think in that sense, the league's in good hands.
Yeah, I completely agree. I am having a ton of fun with it. And it's not like, I guess the word I'm thinking is, it's not like the OG stars that are really popping off, and they are, but like, it's newer guys, and I know like Luka's not technically new, but he's still younger, and Trey Young, guys like that, like, um, those are the guys that are such a fun watch. And I know, like, we're going to talk about the Kings later, but even the Kings offense being one of the best in the league is a bunch of guys you're not used to maybe seeing in that position. So it makes it fun to talk about, a little fresh. And it, like the OGs, like we talk about LeBron James, the Lakers, they're 7-11. So like, we're still talking about them, but from like a team standpoint, they're not really in it with the Suns or somebody who's, number one in the league right now. Although I will give the Lakers their credit. They're, 5-5 in their last 10. So
No, but you can talk about the OGs though, the greats though, in that regard, because it's like, yeah, LeBron's going for the overall NBA points record this
yeah.
year. That's crazy. Like Stephen Curry's out here still playing incredible basketball, coming off his fourth championship, and just looks as good as ever, even in his 30s. Chris Paul's playing for Phoenix right now, who like I know he's still chasing that ring, but it's like, look, Phoenix is the best team in the Western Conference as of recording this podcast. Like, and they've kind of shook off some of the
You
issues
know,
from last year. You've
I
got the
I
league's in good hands in that regard.
I saw, it might have been a TikTok video, but I saw a video where they were joking about how Chris Paul like is like a jokester on the basketball court, and a bunch of little things like antics wise that he's done in the past and stuff like that. And I was like, I watched this and I don't see it as him being a jokester. I just see him being as like an absolute jerk and trying to get under the skin of the
Oh,
other team, you
no, I
know?
completely get why guys don't like playing against Chris Paul. Like like Chris Paul's an all-time great. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I've greatly enjoyed watching him. Like he's also done multiple like borderline questionable things on a basketball court. Like we don't need to like the proof is in the pudding. It happens.
Well,
Like
you not to get past that, you say questionable. I mean, like the Pat Bev thing. I know this is kind of off topic, but Pat Bev with Aiton and the Suns, like that was pretty egregious. And obviously, he's been suspended. But like, yo,
you guys should stay tuned for who's balling, who's falling, and you may hear more
ah,
about that ongoing situation and what happened there with yeah, he earned that one.
yeah.
And I saw Draymond in particular say that it was kind of never mind. I'll save this for later on in the episode. What else are you thankful for?
Oh man, I mean, I would say not to like take a dig at it, but it's a little bit of a dig at it. I'm thankful for I'm thankful for the Dallas Mavericks this year, specifically because of how electric Luca has been. But it's also very interesting because they haven't won a game this season if Luca scores less than 30 points. So it's like, you're a really good team, but like if Luca even has like has what could be considered a decent game at this point, you can't win. Like, what is going on here? So that's kind of why I'm thankful for the Dallas Mavericks, because that's like mind-boggling to me.
The catch and shoot, and I think I feel like it was at Kirk Serious Face on Twitter who covers the Mavericks, and but anyway. I wish I knew who 100% who it was, so I give them the credit. But the catch and shoot numbers off Luca passes for 3 pointers for Reggie Bullock, Tim Hardaway Jr.,
Not
and
good.
Maxi Kleba are all below 30%. And like by below 30%, they're a lot closer to 20.
Wow.
Um, it's not great. I mean, they're like, yeah, they're just not getting enough secondary. And it's funny because like they want to, everyone, I feel like in the past week or two has been like, oh, it's Luca. He's doing everything. It's because he's got the ball in his hands all the time. Well, he's kind of had to. Like
Yeah.
it looks like they're missing Brunson bad, which I mean, you knew they would, but I don't know. I mean, no, I promise this wasn't intended, but like I thought Chris would pick a lot of that up. Like I thought that Tim Hardaway Jr. just would be a little better than he's been since coming back from injury, and maybe that's it. Like again, we're going to see cycles, but yeah, I mean, we're a full quarter of the season to this point now. Like you can start having to have some takeaways a little bit.
Right. And I think, there was some confidence in Dinwiddie as well. And so
Yeah,
maybe that's why they were more willing to move away from Brunson. And It is what it is, but that I'm thankful for because it really feels like an anomaly where like Luka can't score less than 30 points. Like, damn, man, that's a lot of pressure on one dude. And I get it, he's gonna be in the MVP running and he's supposed to be the best guy on the team, but dropping 30 bombs every game,
He
like,
might be able
oof,
to. That's what's crazy. That really is
right.
like he might be able to. No, and I guess we'll get into this a little bit as we start to talk injuries, but I do, and we talked about this a little bit even last episode. I love the chaos right now in the standings, right? Like
Hmm.
that's really the takeaway a quarter into this is like outside of Boston and Milwaukee at the top of the East, which I feel like everyone expected. It's been pretty, I mean, the West is a little more like you can see Phoenix being there. They were last year. Denver is somebody that I've been super high on. I think they could win the conference. So yeah, I would be lying if I'm not surprised there. But I mean, you look at the four guaranteed spots right now: New Orleans, Memphis, Portland, and Sacramento. Like, I think that was a hard press for everybody in the Eastern Conference. Cleveland, Indiana, Atlanta, Philly. Like, maybe not what everybody expected. And I mean, Philly just got in there.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, I mean,
and
I'm. It is a little nice to see some. And again, we're in November. We'll see how this shakes out. Like, we got a long way to go, but
right.
it is kind of nice to see some new blood. Um, like we could have a finals potentially with some guys that have just never played there before. Like that's pretty unique to see.
Well, and on top of that, from the last time we podcast when we were talking about kind of things that surprised us in the standings, some of that kind of seems like it's starting to correct itself. Like the Jazz being the number 1 seed, they're 3-7 in their last 10. They seem to be coming back down to earth a little bit. Timberwolves are 6-4 in their last 10, so they seem to be rising to where we thought they were going to be. Warriors as well, 7-3 in their last 10, so they're starting to get back to where we thought they were kind of supposed to be. So it's like maybe now we're going to start seeing like it not be as surprising. Like the Suns being number 1, I don't think that's surprising to anybody really. I know they started kind of slow and
I
from
mean,
last year, but
it is a little surprising in a sense. Like I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because I was really beating the drum about that loss to Dallas, and
mhm.
I still am. Like it is a playoff thing for me. Like you want to see them shake that off, but like I did wonder if that could go over a little bit and bleed over. Like it is impressive that they're still number 1, specifically with DeAndre Ayton, who's been playing some really good basketball recently.
Yeah, and so like to that, I don't know, I just kind of expected them to be there, but like you were saying, like Cavs, I was kind of like, this is what we'll see in a year from now once Donovan and everybody gets kind of on the same page. But they came out swinging right away, and it looked like it clicked right away. They're 12-7, third in the East right now. Pacers are like you were saying, surprising. Hawks, maybe not as surprising, but because of last year's like kind of like I would categorize as a disappointing season. Seeing them sitting 5 is good, so I'm excited for it. And there's players that are starting to play well as again that we will get into. I know with my balling and falling, we're gonna get into that a little bit as well.
Yeah, it's just about surviving the injuries right now, which
Yeah.
I mean, we really should get into it. Welcome everybody to the Driving Dish NBA podcast. My name is Kevin Rayfuse. Joining me as always, my co-host Justin Kuzart.
Let's go with a bunch of O's. Bucks.
Oh wow. So he's got to be. So he's on the team right now, or is this just another athlete?
My hint.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. Okay, never mind. I get it.
Yeah.
This is an Ohio State reference. Got it. So this is LeBron then. Okay, that was good.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Okay, you got it. I
I
thought it was
like the
gonna
one.
throw you for a loop.
No, I like you. What you did for a sec. It got me. Almost got me. No, it's funny because like I appreciated that he called it an earmuffs. Like I think he called it a full out ass kicking after the game because I mean it was, man. Like I'm here.
Mhm.
I'm in Connecticut. My girlfriend's sister is actually going to University of Michigan right now. So
Oh boy.
casual might get a natty in your first year. Not bad at all. But no, that was different. I mean, Ohio State has largely dominated that matchup.
Yeah.
Michigan beat them last year, I know, but like the fact that they came out in the second half when it looked like Ohio State had kind of punched back and taken control in Columbus, like that's as good as it gets if you're a Michigan fan.
Yeah, they were cooking. I got a bunch of Michigan fan friends, and only one Ohio State fan friend. So I kind of saw both reactions, but man, my social media was popping off with people really excited.
There
But
were a lot of people that
at
were rooting for
least
Ohio State's downfall. I was a little surprised by that.
at
Like more
least
than I expected. There was some sauce on it.
At least they didn't storm the field after beating an unranked team. That's all I'll say.
Wait a minute. Hang on. Wait, are you standing for Florida right now?
I'm not, but like, come on, FSU.
It's a little lame, but like whatever. It's a rivalry game.
And
FSU's
I
been
feel
kind of
like,
down recently too.
yeah. And I feel like FSU, like it's more the context of it all, right? Like FSU's been not great recently, so I'm sure it's safe to say Florida's been the better team. But
It's so funny because with
still.
college football, I'm a straight up terrorist with the states that I've lived in. Like I'm in Pennsylvania, or like what if I'm in Pennsylvania, like I grew up there. I can't stand Penn State. Like I literally
Really
hope I can't stand Penn State. And like some of my
interesting.
best friends in the world went to Penn State, but like I literally hope they lose every game. With Florida, that's kind of how I feel about the Gators. Like know a lot of great Gators fans. I'm sorry, like don't hate me, but like I kind of hope you lose every game.
Wow.
But like I'm low key there with FSU, like less with FSU because I don't know, like their fans are less annoying.
Well, and I feel like we
And
haven't
I
seen
have no
them.
dog in the race with college football. Like that's the thing is I really don't. I
You just want everybody to lose.
if anyone like if I were to declare a fanhood, I guess it'd be in places that I've been, right? So like I've been to a game at University of Georgia, for example. I went to a game in Athens, which
Okay.
like yeah, that's a good fanhood recently. I mean, won the national championship last year, have a really good shot at winning it again this year. Um, but yeah, I mean, Hofstra had football in Ona. I literally got to see the last year of Hofstra college football. They had it in 2009. I went to a game, like I was at the last game they ever played.
Yeah.
And then they just canceled the program via email and they haven't had football
That's
since. Like, you want to talk about brutal?
that's a good topic for like the off season, like NBA off season or something. Like we could do like what's the most uh, I don't even know what the wording is. Like surprising game that you've been to that had some sort of significance and continues to get talked about like now. Like like I went to the very last was it the rain I think it was the very last Rangers game in their old stadium before they tore it down. Like just happened to be in Dallas and went. You know what I mean? Like it was
It's
crazy.
it's not a Philly thing, but I went to opening day like way back in 2005 and it was Phillies Nationals. And it was in Philly,
Mhm.
obviously,
Mhm.
but it was the first game that the Nationals had played as a franchise since going back to DC.
Wow.
So,
I
little
remember
inadvertent there because they were
I
before they were the Expos before that.
I remember an opening day I went to for Phillies. It was against Boston, and I want to say Mookie Betts hit like 4 home runs back to back to back to back. It was the most depressing thing I've ever seen. That stadium cleared out so fast, and it was opening day. But I'm trying to think. I mean, I still go back to from an NBA perspective. I still go back to when my wife took me to the Orlando Sixers game, and like while we were driving down, because I was so excited to see Joel Embiid play for the first time, he
Oh, he
got
got
ruled.
hurt.
He got ruled out.
Yeah.
But then TJ McConnell hit a game-winning buzzer beater. Like it was just the
No, that's elite.
most random game ever.
Like the stakes are lower, but anytime you
Right.
get a buzzer beater is sick like that.
That was dope. It was
Um,
so cool.
I guess I was at Manu Ginobili's second to last home game, which
That's a
like
good one.
he went off. It was great. Like he dominated third quarter. It was a Spurs Portland game back in like 20, I guess this is in 2018.
Yeah.
Um that probably is the one that had I guess the most significance. Like I haven't been in any finals game. Like Lord knows the Sixers haven't been close to the finals since 2001. So um yeah, I mean that's probably meaningful, I guess, wise in terms of history. Those are the best ones I've caught.
Yeah, I remember I went out I was in Pasadena for my aunt's wedding, and we were gonna go to a Dodgers game, and I decided not to go. I forget why. Mainly, I probably just didn't really care. But I know my cousins went, and there was some historical, like, significance to the game. Like, something happened. I don't know if it was, like, a no-hitter thing or what, but there was, like it was like, "Damn, I shoulda went to that game." I remember being really upset about it. But maybe that's a topic we'll have to be like, what game or what sporting event did you go to that before you went, you didn't think there was gonna be, like, a historical significance to the game, and then afterwards there was,
Yeah,
like something happened or what, you know?
definitely tweet us. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, Amazon Music, tune in anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find us.
Yes, and we are on YouTube actually, and we've gained a few followers since our last episode. So we apologize that you followed and we just didn't put anything out. But we are looking for subscriber number 56 at this point.
Okay, all right. Let me look.
Um,
Somebody got 55. 55 is a good one. You got
yep,
Dikembe Mutombo. Let's see. Number 56.
pulling it up too. I was trying to do it, but I couldn't. I can't. My problem with and this is like a behind the scenes podcasting thing. I can't type and talk at the same time,
Oh, no, I get that.
so it
Um,
messes me up.
I've been doing more voice text recently.
Oh yeah, just like
Which
hold
mean
it up. Yeah.
which like I think is me. I guess I'm old. But yeah,
Ooh.
it's kind of funny to see what they mess up sometimes.
We are
There are more than
pretty
3 players in NBA
yeah,
history that have won 56. This is crazy.
yeah,
Which I guess I shouldn't be too surprised, but like, wow, that's extra low. Francisco Elson is probably the best here just because he played 3 seasons at least. Like he had 3 seasons with the Nuggets. Besides that, you got Brandon Hunter, who had 1 season with the Celtics in 2004, and Sean
yeah.
Williams, who also had 1 season with the Celtics in 2012. Uh, wow, that's a big step down from Dikembe Mutombo, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, this number is, I'm trying to see, yeah, oof.
We're in a weird stretch because, like, you don't really see, I mean, 60s and 70s, and you got a couple in the 90s for sure.
Yeah, we'd have to, like, pivot and find a way to, like, I don't
For
know.
100, do you get double zero?
Double zero, I forget, I had a Sixers player that wore double zero signed,
Spencer Hawes?
maybe that's no, it would've been before that.
Oh, Spencer Hawes wore double zero for a while.
There was a double zero, it would've been earlier than that because I was still in high school when I had it. Forget his name, but I had it signed. It was in my bedroom. I'll have to
Oh,
look it
wow,
up.
okay, alright, yeah, you gotta find that out. That could be a good trivia.
Yeah, 70 Sixers player numbers. Well, I'll look at that, but we can move on. We don't have to dwell on the number
Yeah,
thing.
in the meantime, like you said, be number 56. And now a word from our sponsors.
So we are going to talk a lot about injuries because obviously injuries always affect the NBA at some
It's
point.
everyone, bro. You don't undersell this. It's everyone. It feels like the whole league is injured.
Yeah, and I mean, the biggest one. Well, I wouldn't say the biggest one. The one that has like a lot of drama around it as we were prepping for this show is the one with Gordon Hayward. So on Friday, as of recording this, that's a few days ago. The Hornets announced that Gordon Hayward would miss the game against the Timberwolves due to a shoulder contusion. And that didn't sit well with Hayward's wife. So she posts on social media saying that it is a shoulder fracture, not a contusion, which is obviously way more severe than a contusion is. She said he actually fractured his scapula. They had him play last game. That's why he couldn't move his arm up in that game. She said, "I'm over them not protecting players." Just was talking with a younger player's mom, and she was saying the same thing. So another really bad look for the Hornets.
Oh, that's crazy. That's actually that was way more dramatic than I expected. I mean, the
Yeah.
gluttony of injuries, obviously, for Gordon Hayward here in recent
Right.
years. I mean, this dude just can't catch a break. The Hornets, between LaMelo Ball being out, I mean, I know he's back now, but he missed a significant amount of time. Now Gordon Hayward's out. Like they're definitely just missing guys for sure.
Yeah.
Terry Rozier's playing great, but it gets thin there really fast. Um, yeah, but I mean, even besides that, it's the fact that it's up and down the board. That is interesting though. Like, because like you said, there's a big difference between a contusion and a fracture.
And I
Um,
wonder, like, I know leagues have and players associations have different rules on how you have to go about announcing injuries and stuff. So my first thought was when I was listening to it was like, oh, maybe this was like a strategic thing where like they were looking at the stretch and they wanted other teams to still have to potentially think he might play when he's not going to, like all that like mental warfare a little bit, but obviously not sitting well. And clearly, in Gordon Hayward's wife's eyes, this is kind of a consistent thing that's happening with the Hornets, and maybe other teams. So I don't know. Maybe there's a investigation or something that goes on again with another team. So who knows?
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I'm interested. That's kind of weird. I mean, I don't think the Hornets are trying to win games right now either, right? Like that's the thing is it's like so you shouldn't if anything, you would think that they would want him to be out longer, but I digress. Who knows? The biggest one to me to watch is the Clippers.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul George has missed time, but like we got to start talking about Kawhi Leonard. Like Kawhi Leonard's played a handful of games this year, not even a
5.
full 5. Oh, he's
Yeah.
at a full 5 at this point. Okay.
I think so, yeah. I was looking at his basketball reference, and it said he has played in 5 games this year. He was back for like 3, and now he's out again. So like,
This has
it's
been
not
constant.
great.
No, it's been constant. I mean, this work off the point. I mean, that ACL he tore in the bubble. Like it's been quite a long time now since he initially went down. And obviously, this is a guy who's dealt with a ton of injuries over his career. The quad injury in particular, the one towards the end of his time with San Antonio that everybody was worried about. But we talk about the Clippers being this finals juggernaut, potentially could win the whole thing, and it's all cognizant on them being healthy.
Yeah.
Like I know everyone's going to say, "Oh, well, the Clippers games don't matter." They're playing for June, which is true, but like at some point, you're not just gonna be able to say that, hey, we're just bubble wrapping Kawhi Leonard. Like, I'm gonna point, like, I'm pretty concerned about this actually. Like he's starting to set
Yeah.
Kawhi's reaching the more of a concept than an actual basketball player at this point. And it's a damn shame because look, we know how he is when he's healthy. Like that's the thing, he's one of the best players in the league when he's been healthy. But I don't think we've seen a fully healthy Kawhi Leonard season probably since he won the title in Toronto.
Agreed. And it makes me wonder, like, because I kind of remember with the Spurs that whole like he was saying it wasn't healthy, they were saying he mentally wasn't ready, all that stuff. So I don't know, but I wonder if there's some of that, like you don't trust your own body yet type situation. But yeah, man, at this point, it's kind of you got to start to worry a little bit. And like you said, they're playing for the playoffs, but with how good every team seems to be, positioning in those playoff races is also important. So you don't want to be in a spot where you're not really controlling your own destiny or not having home court advantage.
If you're in a play-in, you can lose. Like that's the
Right.
thing. That's what people like.
It's one game.
Sure,
It's yeah.
yeah. All it takes is one weird shot. Some dude gets going. Like that. That's the beauty of the play-in, right?
And another injury on the Clippers that I think is worth bringing up is Luke Kennard. He hasn't played since November 15th. There's no timetable for his return. And that one's still pretty big. I mean, he's been shooting some really impressive 3-point percentage numbers. So from a floor spacing aspect, like you definitely want him out there. And so he's also only played 14 games this season, but he started in 7 of them. So like, the injury bug. But I feel like with the Clippers, we've been talking about the injury bug past 3, maybe 4 seasons. Again, I know it goes back to Kawhi, a lot of it, but
That's been Paul George too. I mean,
Paul
Paul
George.
George has been
Mhm.
great when he's played, and it's been a lot. Like he hasn't missed the volume of time that
Right.
Kawhi Leonard has, but like he's definitely missed a significant amount of games as well. Like you can't just keep relying on your depth forever at some point.
And while we're on the topic of injuries, because I've seen 2 videos of this now, I think Anthony Davis slipped on the court trying to pick up LeBron, and another players on the Lakers slipped on the court trying to pick up LeBron. It's like, yo, why is everybody slipping? Because I know Anthony Davis went down and everybody thought he hurt his back or re-injured his back. I actually think he is out.
He's out for their next game, but I
Yeah,
mean he was cooking. And I mean, again, preview for balling and falling, but it's like, hello, Anthony Davis. It's about damn
finally.
time.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Other, I mean, Jaw's recovery has been the most surprising. I mean, Ja Morant, it looked like the Grizzlies were going to have to, and it's tough. Like, I know they were good without Ja last year, but like, there's still Jaren Jackson is still working his way back. Like, it's not, that's a big task with both of them. But he only ended up missing one game, so that's a bit of a bullet dodged for everybody. That looked really bad. I know
Mhm.
that there are some people that are asking just because of John Morant and the way he plays, obviously, if there's an injury concern with that, but
There always
I'm not
has
quite to
been,
that.
right? Like, I feel like we've always talked about Ja Morant and the potential because he looks I guess the word is looks like tinier than most NBA players, that there's some of that concern. But I don't know, man. Like with his game, with how aggressive he plays, it feels like the second you don't play that aggressive, that's when like injury could potentially, like if you hesitate at all, that's when injury can kind of set in easier or potentially happen. So we'll see. But a win and a loss in his 2 games back from that scary moment when he was inactive. But it's still like I don't know. Ja continues to, I guess the word surprise me, but at this point, it shouldn't be surprising, you know?
In terms of what is playing, or in terms of just the bounce
Just
back?
yeah, bounce back because even was it the playoffs last year or was it towards the end of the season last year? Like he looked like he got really hurt, but then he was back and fine, and
Yeah.
just the way he flies around in general, yeah, still surprises me even though we've seen it for a bit now.
No, and I mean, with our Sixers, it's just a war
Yeah,
of attrition at this point. I mean,
yeah,
Embiid's only out 2 games, and we've talked about Harden, so I'm not going to bring that up. But Maxey breaking his foot is brutal. I mean, at least you're at a point where it's a month, and
yeah,
I guess that's what everyone collectively was taking a sigh of relief when it's only a month. But and in a weird way, I mean, give them credit. That win over Brooklyn, especially because I mean Ben Simmons' return. I tweeted this before it happened. The injuries kind of took the juice out of it, right? Like
yeah,
that could have been an elite like basketball hatred atmosphere, and it just wasn't. I mean, like they had fun with it, but it definitely didn't feel the same. Though, I mean, give the Sixers a ton of credit. That's an impressive win. They beat Orlando the other night too. Like we said, your boy Shake Milton going crazy, first career double double. The depth has definitely stepped up, and that's been good to see between Paul Reed, between George Niang, and they stayed afloat in a very difficult portion of their schedule. Like when Harden went down, it was all the way back, I think, on November 7th. And I mean, you had, again, Phoenix, Atlanta twice, Utah, who started off hotter than people expected. I mean, they need all 59 of those from Embiid that night. But to beat Milwaukee, to beat Brooklyn with nobody, to beat Orlando even with nobody, and they've got Orlando again tonight, and then they've got Atlanta tomorrow, and then Cleveland and Memphis. So like it's a bit of a tough go here still, but
yeah.
the fact that they're scrapping out some of these games with nobody, I mean, that's like you've got Tobias Harris in their depth right now. I think that is huge low key for later in the season. Like seeing a guy like DeAnthony Melton have his best game since coming over. Those guys getting reps now is going to make everybody's life a lot easier because I mean, we said, and he did for a little bit, but when Harden went down, the worry was like, oh my God, are you going to expend Embiid already? Like, that's just not a great recipe to win later.
Well, and that's kind of what we were talking about is we thought we would be talking about the Sixers right before, Christmas, which I think was the original timetable for Harden's return. If I might have that wrong, but there was a lot of that talk where it was like we could be sitting Christmas or right before Christmas and it looked real bad for the Sixers. And at least from a depth standpoint, they've stepped up and helped that narrative not be as bad.
They
And
got to
from a
stay
team
afloat.
yeah, and from a team that last year, the biggest criticism was a lot of depth problems. That's good to see.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, because it was the same thing with the Clippers that we just said, right? Like you can hang around this playing spot, but that's where it can get weird and things can happen. And all of a sudden, it doesn't matter how healthy you are if you get derailed and knocked out.
Mhm.
LeBron's been in and out, but he's been kind of back, so I don't want to harp too much on that. I'm trying to think if I'm missing any big injuries here besides that.
I mean, a
Um,
big thing. I mean, from the Celtics standpoint, we talked about Robert Williams. I think we already mentioned that he had the surgery, so he should be back around Christmas, which will be even. I mean, Boston already cooking. We're going to talk about them later, but you're
yeah,
adding a guy who defensively should be even stronger and boost your team. So there's that.
yeah. Anthony Davis will be back to Monday versus the Pacers, so that shouldn't be too big of a deal. Um, I mean, the Kawhi is the sleeper one to watch, though. I'm telling you, like, I haven't been concerned necessarily. I figured they'd ease him back in at the beginning of the season. Like when they initially said he was going to have a minutes restriction, I'm like, all right, whatever. Like he's
Hmm.
easing it off the ACL. You're not playing for now. Whatever. Like take it slow. I don't have a problem with that. But like the fact that he's been missing these games again already, at some point you got to consistently run a couple together if they're gonna because they're gonna need you to go. It's not just like, oh, we're gonna need Kawhi Leonard to be healthy come playoffs. It's like, no, you're gonna need him to play heavy minutes.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of bouncing down some of the injury reports on ESPN site right now. Ricky Rubio is saying he might be back December. That could be very interesting to see the dynamic of the Cavs and how they utilize him
It was
or what.
great there the first time. So if
That's what
he
I
fits in
mean.
as well
Yeah.
as he did before he got hurt last year, we fine.
Yep. Cade Cunningham. Obviously, they're worried about the stress fracture in the shin. So he's out indefinitely right now. So we'll see where that gets updated. Although that report's from a few days ago, so I wonder if they've already updated that. But other than that, like we said, everybody's just been going through it. Although I would say it does, from the years past that we've been doing this, it feels like right around now is always when we have the injury conversation. Like, wow, it's real bad in the NBA right now.
Yeah, it was just weird. Like there were days where front pages were just entire ones of injury, and
Yeah,
it's like, we got nothing really to talk about. Like, and it did for a little bit. Like we've had a couple individual runs that have been pretty crazy so far this season, but and I guess Luca's ongoing. Like you talked about that a little bit
yeah,
ongoing. Luca, it feels like does that every night, but um, thankfully, some of these don't appear to be season. Like I want to knock on wood. I was trying to find like or the best way to not jinx that. Um,
right.
but it at least seems like they're going to be, workable kind of.
And
All
on
right,
the
who's
on
ball?
the and on the positive side, players like Chris Middleton and Harden, those guys have come out and made comments saying that they're on pace to be back when we think they're going to be back. And from the Bucks standpoint, Chris coming back is going to be huge. Like we
Yeah,
said for the Celtics, Williams coming back is going to be huge. So at least from the positive side of the injury reports, the players that we've been talking about being on teams that are going to be big, it looks like they're still on pace.
yeah, no, 100%. All right, who's balling? Who's falling? Our NBA version of the stock market. We always like to start with the good before the bad. I do want to mention Anthony Davis here is balling. Last 5 games, 37 and 18, 38 and 16, 30 and 18, 37 and 21, and 25 and 15. Missed their win against the Spurs again the other night, but they were 4-1 over those games. Like, this is the Anthony Davis that I'm
Yeah.
talking about. Like, this is what we're trying to see. This is like he's been dominant on the defensive end during that stretch too. It's not like it's just offense. The team's been winning. He's flying around, active everywhere. Like this is the Anthony Davis that we want to see 24/7. Like the guy that is reaching his potential because it is so sky high and like he can dominate when he's out there. But like the reasons to be high on the Lakers were to be Anthony Davis's return to health, hopefully. Great stretch towards proving that right now.
I agree. It's still like he's entered in and probably already was there, but he's entered in on that like Joel Embiid status. When you see him hit the floor, you're like, oh no, here it is. Like this is the time he's out. That injury concern is real, but very excited to see him back and playing well. Um,
I will say I didn't want to. I'm not going to do the double where he gets the ball and falling. I saw Anthony Davis's post game the other night after they played the Spurs, where he talked about Lonnie Walker getting a tribute. And he's like, "Man, I wish I got one of those." I want to be like Anthony Davis. Have you lost your mind? Like, on what planet do you think, given your exit and how that was handled in New Orleans, that they're going to give you a tribute video? And I think they'll get there eventually to the point where Anthony Davis is like, because look, it ended really badly.
I don't think it's gonna get there.
It'll get there eventually. I do think it'll get there eventually. Like he was good for them for a long time. He's one of the best players of franchise history. But like, yeah, you want to talk about handling an exit badly? Like Anthony Davis did everything wrong in that exit. So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think we're quite at tribute video status yet either. Like, come on, bro. It's like
Eh,
yeah, it feels like he blocked those 4 months out of his head like none of that happened.
Well, and I'll say, from a guy that replaced him essentially, Zion, you saw the announcer asked him his favorite Thanksgiving meal, and he was like, "You're trying to set me up. I'm not answering that question, regardless of what I say. It's
Oh my
gonna get
god.
destroyed." It's like
That's so
poor
fun.
guy already
That is
knows
the
he
poor
can't do it though.
That is the poor guy, but, like, let the man answer come on, we can't be the internet's a rough place.
Oh, and Zion knows it now. He's not touching that
But
question.
Zion's cooking, though, like,
Oh,
you
I
let
know.
that man talk about food when he's cooking. He busts his ass get back in shape, like,
Oh,
if
I
y'all wanna
know.
slander if we're gonna slander Zion, it's like what that John Moran said, you gotta keep the energy or that tweet said, you gotta keep the energy the same, and is that a good segue? Did I just throw the alley for you on the break?
Yep, yep. We're about to slam it down because that's my ball in. Ben Simmons and Clay Thompson. We'll start with Ben. Since November 15th, that kind of seems like the flip. He was inactive for a game, came back November 15th, and that kind of something sparked him. 6 games since he's 15.5 points per game, 6.8 rebounds per game, 5.5 assists, a steal and a half, a block and a half. which is significantly better.
And
And
defensively, he looks engaged again. That's the
yes,
biggest thing too. Is it's like, look, even when there are all the flaws there in Philly with his offense, like you
his
could at
defense.
least count on like best defense in the league every single night
Yeah.
type vibes. That being back is huge. He just is. He's finally just attacking the basket again. Like
Yeah.
he's never going to shoot the basketball, and I do think those concerns are always going to come up come playoff time. But like, yeah, the fact that he just wasn't attacking the rim and just was play. He's not playing scared anymore. And like
Yes.
part of that is probably the injury healing. Part of it is him just like breaking out of the funk a little bit.
Yeah.
Like you can tell when someone's just off. Like it's been a long time. The team's still got a long way to go, but like, yeah, they need Ben Simmons to be functional, and he looks like an NBA player right now. Like he doesn't look like. I mean, those calls to bench him at the beginning of the season were valid. Like this is what Brooklyn's been waiting for.
Well,
Like, he
and
just looks. The fact that he looks aggressive, that alone goes a long way because it's just we haven't seen that.
yeah, and I'll say, I was looking it up, I was looking at the game stats, and there was a point there where he went from starting to coming off the bench. And so I wonder if that was a little bit of the motivator that got him, um, you know, to kind of pick up the game, pick up the pace. But regardless of what it was, it worked, and here he is, and it looks better than it was. And Ja's right. I kind of agree with him on this one. Like, if we're gonna give Ben, and I know we're Sixers fans, so like I want to hate on him as much as I can, but if we're gonna give Ben so much crap for being bad, we at least deserve or should have to mention when he's doing good because
Yeah,
of how
I
much
mean,
we rag on him.
yeah, I agree to an extent. I think the whole like there's levels to it, but like I
Yeah,
also
I'm
do.
not going
I
out of
think
my
that
way
Ben.
to like praise him over it, but it's like we should be like, okay, cool, he's finally flipped it around a
Yeah,
little bit.
you can acknowledge that Ben
Yeah.
Simmons been good. Like I'm not that. I don't hate the guy that much. Well, I'm
Mm,
like I don't really hate him at all. I'm just disappointed.
mm,
Like I'm not mad. I'm disappointed at Ben
mm.
Simmons. Like
I'm a little bit of all that.
oh, all right, no comment. Um,
uh,
anyway,
oh yeah.
with
So
Clay Thompson, with Clay, it's not that like when the shot is going, it's fine. My
right.
Clay Thompson concern is just again, it's the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Like Clay Thompson at his peak, it's not just that he was a great shooter; it's that he was their best perimeter defender. Like he's been really underrated for his career in that
Well,
regard, in my opinion. Like that's the part where you worry about just the fact that between the injuries and the age, where it's like, yeah, he's not gonna be able to keep that level up. That is that. But like with shooters, yeah, guys get into slumps. Like good elite shooters like that are gonna snap out of it at some point.
well, and so like the thing I was looking at too, right? Like I would say take it back to November 18th against the Knicks. He had 19 against the Suns, but I'm going to leave that out because it doesn't go with my narrative I'm trying to pitch right now. Um,
I'm just
but
laughing at me slurping coffee too. Don't mind me.
oh yeah, no worries. But yeah, I mean, they lost to Phoenix. He had 19. But in that case, he was 3 for 9 from 3. Just 33%, which is fine. But then against the Knicks, he starts picking up the 3-point shot. He's 4 for 10, about 40%. And then against Houston, it really clicked. He was 10 for 13 when he dropped that 40 bomb against Houston. Then against the Clippers, sorry, he was 3 for 7 against Utah, which was on the 25th. He was 6 for 12. So the 3-ball, like you said, he kind of got out of that little bit of weird slump he was shooting. He kind of clicked. But what I would like to say is like the teams he did it against are kind of either injured or towards the bottom a little bit. So there's some of that as well.
Yeah, 100%. Um, I, I still think it. I'm not too worried about it. Like,
I mean,
I
look,
don't think
if Clay's shooting 6 for 12 from 3 in a game, and you got Curry doing what Curry does, like, okay,
it's just my other like my concerns with the Warriors are not Clay Thompson related necessarily. It's we talked
the
about it a
young
little bit
guys,
last episode. It's the two timeline thing. Like
yeah,
it's their depth. It's you wonder if these guys can come along enough. And I mean, Draymond kind of talked about how difficult that situation is with, you know, most rookies. I was trying to think of the exact quote. He's like, most rookies are on teams that just suck usually. Like
mm-hmm.
you're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to learn the pace of it. It is a little more difficult in that sense for, I mean, he mentioned Moses Moody in there too, but like for Moody and Wiseman and Kuminga, like, yeah, they got to be championship caliber
You
good
got to hit
right
the ground
away.
running, yeah,
And
literally,
I mean, some guys do that, like Jordan Poole.
mm-hmm.
Got to, work his way into a huge payday because of how well he played in the finals. But it is definitely tough. I mean, Wiseman's always had, unfortunately, that burden too, with just being the number 2 overall as well. and a pick before LaMelo, who's had, success here in the NBA. So I definitely feel for that. All right, fallen for me is Patrick Beverley, 3-game suspension for shoving not Anthony Davis, excuse me, DeAndre Ayton over. I mean, he was going to his teammates' defense, but yeah, I mean, this is a reputation crime, right? Like Pat Bev's done multiple things at this point. Look, we know Pat Bev plays on the edge. We know he plays chippy. Again, earmuffs again. Like he shit houses. Like he's one of those guys. But yeah, it's going to burn you sometimes, and like you can't push DeAndre Ayton in the back like that too. Like
No.
that's the thing is like when he doesn't see it coming, like you're going to get suspended for that.
Yeah, it's a cheap shot, and it's unnecessary. Again, I know, like the whole thing is like, well, it's Pat Bev, like this is from him, so why are we even giving it the time of day? But yeah, I mean, that's how people get really hurt, and I know he plays tough, but like, if you were to have ended Aiton's season from doing that, God forbid he twists an ankle or something, like it wouldn't be good at all. It would be real bad. So like why even let it be on the table as an option of something to do,
Yeah, no, I mean, no, I'm with you. Why you're right. Kind of why put the option on the table.
Right. Shouldn't be
And he's just not gonna like at some point, I don't know. Draymond said 3 he felt was harsh, but it's like it's 3 regular season
Of
games.
course,
Like,
of course Draymond thinks that he's another dirty
well,
player.
Draymond didn't get anything when he punched Jordan Poole in the face. So like
I
I don't
know.
know, man. 3 is
Or
fine. They didn't throw a book at him. It's not like they took him out for 10. Then it'd be like,
yeah.
all right, that's a little too far.
They
But like
didn't
3 feels right. Now, if he does it again, I think he might get 5 or 6. Like it's
yeah,
only going to
didn't
keep going up. Like Pat Bev's going to watch this for sure. Like the rep is there.
well, and that's what I was about to allude to with Draymond. I mean, I seem to recall a nut kicking situation that might have been a problem in the playoffs for Draymond. So
It
like
might have been a problem. I mean, it was a problem. You argue that swung the series.
yeah, and so, that's a big part of it is once you have that reputation, the refs are gonna be either looking for it more or calling it a little tighter on you, so there's that. My fallen is still with the, Warriors. Um, it's, Steph Curry, and it's more falling for the rest of the Warriors because Curry is leading the NBA with a on-off of plus 31.2.
Hmm.
Which is like insane amount. For context, Jokic is second with 28.5. Giannis is at 45 with plus 9.8, and Tatum is at 57th in the league with a plus 8.3. The person that posted this is trying to discredit everybody else for MVP. Luka is at 100 at plus 3.5. His whole point is as good as Luka, Giannis, Tatum have been, they are much less, quote, valuable to their team as Golden State needs Curry. If Curry was not playing for Golden State, they would not win 10 games.
Did you see Steph Curry turn around and start running back on a floater the other night? Like
No.
that's new levels of just like I'm better than you and I know it. Like, bro, he's doing this on the floaters now. Like it's
Mhm.
I get the argument. I don't agree. Because I think he's not wrong in terms of the value. They'd be really bad without Steph Curry, but
But like
Allen, like Luca
right.
plummets and he's doing everything
But
literally.
that's what I mean. Even when Luka has
Um,
an average game, they lose regardless. Like that's how
yeah,
bad.
and I mean, Tatum too is playing the best basketball of his career right now on the best team in the NBA. So
Right.
it's like, yeah, I'm pretty hard pressed to downplay him too. Like I think Tatum
Right.
is right there.
Right.
I would put them both over Steph, but to that token, like I think Steph is arguably like I think Steph and Giannis are the basically like I gun to my head, I'm taking Giannis, but it's like Steph and Giannis are the best players in the NBA right now. Like let's get
Mhm.
that. Like I don't think there should be any doubt there. Like you can't deny what Steph did after that Boston series last year.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think, I was just about to ask you that too. Like when you were putting your rankings, I was like, oh, so is Giannis 4 on your list? Then is it like Steph, Tatum, Luca, Giannis? I think that would be a little egregious, but here we
I
are.
mean, is it like the NBA, the MVP race is just good this year? Like, and it's still really
Yeah,
early, but like, I don't, Giannis being 4, I don't think is that ridiculous when you look at like all those guys ahead of him have really good arguments too.
I guess my thing with Luca is if you
They're 9-9. That's my thing,
right,
Luca.
right. They're 9-9. They're 11th in the league. He might be the most valuable player on their team, but like Giannis has them 13-5, and I guess that kind of is the same argument for Steph, right? 10-10.
Yeah, no, I mean it is. Yeah,
So
I'd be a hypocrite if I said it wasn't. So
right.
yeah.
So like I guess we're kind of I kind of killed that argument for us a little bit.
No, I mean, hey, look, because it's always the balance with MVP, right? It's like, what do you
Yeah.
value more? And I think a lot of times the MVP argument skews one way. Like you either value winning too much or you value just individual stats too much. Like it's the balance. Like I want to have who's got those gaudy individual stats, but is
Hmm.
also actually on a good team. But I do think sometimes it gets down. Like when the Warriors had Kevin Durant, like, yeah, it was going to get downplayed every time because your
Right.
teammates are just god level.
Well, and that's what we
But
joked
I also
about
don't think
with.
you should get punished for that either. Like I'm not going to punish Jason Tatum because he plays with better players than everybody else does.
Well, that's what we talked about last year when the Sixers got Harden. It's like, well, this is probably going to hurt Embiid's MVP case because for this last bit of the year, it's
It
going to
shouldn't have
be
last year. I think this year it should, but I think last year it shouldn't have because they didn't have any depth. I think now that they've got depth a little bit, then yeah, it's a little different.
changes. Yeah, I agree. So,
Well, Embiid put up. I'll tell you what, Embiid put himself right there with that argument. I mean, he had that
mhm,
week. Like, I think he's going to be in the conversation with, especially as long as everybody's hurt. Like, I think early on
yeah,
that will help him because, like we said, we're still probably 2 weeks away at least from getting Harden back. Like, you're a full 3 minimum from getting Maxi back. So,
yeah.
I mean, but no, realistically, I
Well,
think
and I
it
would imagine they're going to take their time on Maxi because again, the Sixers are a team that's not necessarily playing for the regular season. I get it; they're in a spot where they need to make a push, but
Geez, I'll tell you what though, you should play for it when you have to. I don't want Boston in the first
I
round, and I
know,
don't want
I know,
Milwaukee in the first round either.
I know.
Like you should play. You don't gotta like you're gonna have to run into them at some point.
Well,
Um,
and speaking of the
even Cleveland,
Celtics,
I don't want to be. If Cleveland stays 3, I don't want to be 6.
no, I agree. You don't. It's not an easy path. And I think things will start to correct themselves, hopefully from the Sixers and maybe even the Heat side of things. As the season goes on. But we did want to talk a little bit about the Kings and the Celtics. Let's start with the Kings since we were just kind of talking about the Celtics a little bit because the Kings have one of the best offenses in the league. Their defense is not good. But a lot of it has to do with the Kings being really smart on how they constructed their teams and certain trades that, the players that they traded on other teams are looking really good. Halliburton being the main case of that. But like, you have them bringing in Kevin Herter. They brought in Sabonis, which kind of help De'Aaron Fox specifically because the pick and roll and the spacing, which really helps them on the offensive side, which is why people were so excited to see them go up against the Celtics, who were I guess the Kings were the best offense in the league, if I have it correct, and the Celtics were number two. And so, that game was interesting, and I think it was the Kings dropped like a 40-point quarter on them, but then the Celtics went on a crazy run at the end there. So Celtics still pulled it out defensively; they stepped up. But I think it's worth mentioning the Kings were really smart in picking a direction and picking players that they decided they were going to go forward with, and kind of smoothing out the team to fit the play style of those players. And here we are.
Well, and we talk about the vibes too. Like you just see it there. Like I almost hijacked your player tweet today because I saw a great one from Kevin Herter. It made me laugh when he was like that MF or hashtag beam team. And it's like, you
Beam
do, you
team.
feel like the vibes in Sacramento are good. I mean, and it's crazy because I'm so high on Tyrese Halliburton that I never really like that was never my favorite trade just because of how high on Hallie I
Right.
am. Like I still think I think you could have done really well with Fox and Halliburton. But this is a win-win trade right now. Like Domantas Sabonis is a really good player, and I don't feel like Sacramento got enough credit. Where it's like you didn't sell one of your young guys for some stiff out there. Like Sabonis is an instant win now contributor for a role they needed, and he's played really well for them last year. I mean, he's been a double-double machine. Like it's carried over, but it's their depth. I mean, Keegan Murray's been good, obviously, like number 4 pick overall. Like he's been getting some big minutes there, and it's been giving them rewards. Like you said, De'Aaron Fox is playing the best basketball of his career. The additions like Herter coming in is giving a spark to that offense. But it does. They're playing with cohesion right now. They're playing with passion. If I have a concern, it's the defense. I still
Yeah.
think they've got a little bit of a way to go defensively, but that offense is for real. It's number 1 ranked in the NBA right now. I do think that is sustainable. And I think Mike Brown's got them believing. And I think sometimes that matters.
I would say it's sustainable as long as your defense is like average, right? If you're
Yeah, you
like
can't be worse than elite
right,
defense.
like if you have just dumpster fire defense and it's a shootout every game, like I don't trust. I trust you to beat teams that are similar skill level and worse. But once you go up against like a Bucks, you go up against a Phoenix Suns, you go up against a Celtics, a team that can just put enough defensive pressure on you. And that's not saying those teams have bad defense. I'm just saying they have decent defenses and some have really good defenses. So you put a little bit of that pressure on you and slow that offense just enough, it makes you vulnerable.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. You're right. They got to be middle pack, and I do think that I don't know. I'm interested to see what they do with the deadline. To see if they don't try to bring in anybody a little more defensive minded.
Yeah.
But they should very well be going for it. And again, I'm pulling up their schedule real quick, but I mean, they're starting to check some boxes. I do want to. They're not just beating bad teams either.
I
I mean,
do
they've
love
lost.
the I do love the beam team thing. If that's not their hashtag already, it
Oh, it
really should
is. No,
be.
the beam
Okay,
team
good.
is incredible, and that and the weird. I for some reason I don't know who it was out there. It was one of their radio personalities, but they got the Island Boys to make a video
Oh no.
for every time the Kings win, and I have no idea why they got the Island Boys to do that. It's just so random, but it's pretty funny. But I mean, no, it was a streak. During the streak, they beat Cleveland, the Lakers, Golden State, Brooklyn, San Antonio, Detroit, Memphis. So I mean, you got some. It's a good mix in there. You got Golden State, you got Cleveland, you got Memphis. They're on a two-game losing streak as we're recording this against Atlanta and against Boston on the road for both of them. They've got Phoenix, Indy, the Clippers, Chicago, Milwaukee, Cleveland coming up. So, I mean, it's going to be up and down. But outside of the four-game losing streaks to start the season, I mean, really, you throw that out. They've been playing pretty great ball since then. Their loss on November 7th to Golden State was kind of controversial. Their loss to Miami was a three-pointer. I do think this team is for real. I think they've got enough offense that it'll be able to, I don't think they're going to win the title because of their defense or anything crazy like that. But I think they're making the playoffs. Like, I don't want to put the jinx on them. Like, that's the biggest thing. But I mean, I'm actively pulling for them. I hope they make the playoffs. I hope they break the streak. Like, 20 years is a long, long time to not even get a playoff game. Like, for as much as
Yeah.
I complain about the Sixers, but I put the homer hat on, like, I've had playoff games at least. Like, that's kind of unfathomable.
Well, and
Um,
I know that's not the same. I know it's not the same sport, but I mean, with Philly, they went 11 years, and even that felt like insane. You know.
yeah, no,
So
100%. Boston is just, I mean, I'm just surprised, I guess, the fact that they're just obliterating everybody this early in the regular season. Like, I kind of figured, and that's more of just like I kind of chalked it up to the finals hangover. Some of the
mhm.
injuries with Rob Williams, like we mentioned a little bit earlier, Gallinari even going down before the season started, I thought might take some wind out. But no, I mean, they look like they're on a revenge tour for sure right now. Even not having Ime Udoka hasn't slowed them down. Tommy Missoula's done a great job. And they just, I mean, it's
Does
interesting because they're kind of doing what they did last year, right? They are beating the hell out of teams in the first quarter. They're kind of like playing a little weird, and they're playing with their food a little bit in the second and third quarter. And that's where you would be, I guess, if there's a concern. It's that their net rating in the second and third quarter, I think it's only like +2 or something.
well,
It's
yeah.
not
I mean,
really that great. But
they
they're in
gave
the
up.
fourth quarter, it's like +14, I think, right now.
Well, and they gave up like 40, like I said, 40 points to the Kings in the second quarter, if I have it correct. So, like, yeah, you're not the foot's not on the gas the whole time, but it makes me wonder with the Celtics playing so good this year. And I know last year, obviously, we talk about the crazy change with Ime Udoka and how that kind of like flipped around. But like, do we give him too much credit as a coach when we see it now happening again?
No, because I think a lot of the systems are now in place. Like,
Yeah,
I do think Missoula is in a good position to succeed right away.
yeah,
But you got to give him a lot of credit too, though. Like, he was on that bench last year, and that's a tough like situation to get put into right away,
yeah.
especially when guys expected him to be coached. Again, this was 2 weeks before the season. All this went down. They have a lot of credit about tuning that noise out. It's about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown just both continuing to play excellent basketball, like legitimately looking like the best duo in the NBA right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Everybody's still bought in. Brogdon's been everything they've needed and more off the bench. Like I said, if I had any qualms or worries, it's what it was last year. It's that they play with their food in the second and third quarter, and they have a tendency sometimes to turn the ball over.
Mm-hmm.
but they're on a mission right now. I mean, I still am not backing off my Milwaukee's the best team in the NBA pick, but like Boston is right there with them. And I mean, look, they're again early in November, but I don't think there's anyone that doubts that they should be at the conference finals at the minimum. Like I think they should absolutely, it's title or bust for this Boston team right now.
Well, and I'll just say, I'll end my thought on this is, when I was in Jersey and I was able to play sports bets, I was going to put 5-ish bucks on the Celtics to win the finals this year. So I didn't do it
Yeah, I
because
mean, if I'm looking at like if I'm projecting that far ahead, it's probably like I guess Celtics, Bucks. I don't even know after that. It gets kind of tough. Like, I'm Denver biased. Like, I still feel like the Warriors are right there, but the West is more, it's definitely more wide open. But it's like you've got Phoenix, you've got Denver. I mean, even Memphis too. Memphis looks
Denver,
good.
yeah, Denver and Memphis, I'd be willing to bet on sports books right now. Probably have some pretty good odds.
I'm telling you, dude, I like Denver. Like Denver's,
Yeah.
man, I think Denver might win the finals this year. Like I've been saying this, and I've been beating this drum for a while. But like I'm telling you, don't be surprised if the Denver Nuggets win the title this year. I'm gonna clip this. Like I may clip this and post this. That's how good I feel about it. Like it's far from a lock, but like I don't know. People shouldn't be surprised. No one's talking about Denver right now. Like that's the beauty of it. They're still somehow sleeping. Like Boston's gonna have a target on their back. No one's gonna surprise them. Like Milwaukee's gonna have a target on their back. No one's gonna surprise them. Like Denver, just because of the injuries, like people haven't taken it seriously.
I'm trying to see if I can pull it up for you real quick. Okay, so NBA championship odds right now on FanDuel Sportsbook. Celtics are number one. They're plus 460. Bucks are plus 500. Warriors are plus 700. Phoenix is plus 700. Whoa, we've got to go way down to find Denver. Are they not on here?
Oh my God. I'm going to go home and do
Oh, here they are.
Here
they are plus 1,900. Teams above them: Sixers, Nets, Clippers, Suns, Warriors,
the Nets
Bucks,
being
Celtics.
above Denver is so disrespectful. I am so mad. Who else is above them?
76ers, Nets, Clippers, Suns, Warriors, Bucks, Celtics.
I'm fine with the rest. I mean, well, that's not even true. I'm probably not fine with the Sixers. I think that's ridiculous.
Clippers?
The Sixers as well. I get it. The Clippers, at least I get it. I'm not there, but I get it. The Sixers, I get an optimism, but I'm like, yeah, I'm not there yet with the Sixers. Like
teams,
the rest of them, I get. But Golden State just won the title. Boston and Milwaukee, I completely understand.
Teams that are right behind them, if you're wondering, at plus 2,000 is the Grizzlies. At plus 2,000, tied with the Grizzlies, is the Cavs. Mavericks are right after that. Heat.
Cavs are high early. Wow, that's good for them.
Yeah, Mavs, and then Heat, and then Timberwolves, and then Pelicans. I would say down at the bottom, the most surprising. I mean, none of it's really so. Maybe no, because they're. I mean, I guess the most surprising towards the bottom, which at this point we're towards the middle. So there's no real surprises at the bottom there, I don't think.
Yeah.
I would say Nuggets being that low might be the biggest surprise on this book right now. I don't know if it's been updated since it started, but it looks like it's their official. It looks like it's the official FanDuel page, so I would imagine it has been.
I mean, the top should be that surprising, but
I mean, the Warriors. If this is being updated, the Warriors still at 3. At 10 and 10.
I'm not going to kill the Warriors off at November 27th when they just won the title last year.
I would say the two that are really surprising me the most are the Clippers right now and the Nets, just because of how dramatic it's been around the Nets.
The Nets are not a good basketball team, and like tell the truth. We got to start being honest. Like I just watched the Nets lose to the Sixers with nobody. Like, I'm over the Nets. Like, when the Nets start putting a streak together, like, and Kevin Durant's playing great and Ben Simmons is playing better, cool. The rest of the team is not. They still don't play defense. They still don't really run that much of an offense. Like, I'm over giving Brooklyn passes at this point. Okay. Like, Brooklyn are who they are. They're an okay basketball team. They're going to make the playoffs. I'm not suggesting they stink. But it's like, I'm not putting Brooklyn in these title conversations anymore. Like, you telling me right now you think Brooklyn could go out and not you in particular, but like, there's no way anyone serious could tell me that Brooklyn has any chance as currently constructed against a Milwaukee or a Boston. They would get their boots smoked again.
I agree. I think you could place some hope in that maybe Joe Harris is still trying to find his footing again. And once he comes out and is shooting back to hopefully his normal self, and some other team clicking situations, that you don't want to bet against Kevin Durant. But I also agree with you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Driving Dish NBA podcast. I thought I had something else to say. I really didn't. So it's a good time to wrap it up. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find us.
Yep. And find us on YouTube. Just find us there. You can search Driving Dish NBA, and we'll be there. We're looking for subscriber number 56. If you would like to be that, just hit us up there. Video versions of the podcast every time we drop a podcast. So a little purse for the subscription.